Hey readers! So today we're going to talk about how we can support the main idea thinking. And remember, a main idea is what it's mostly about, or those big picture ideas. So yesterday we looked at how we can use the text features, specifically the photographs and subtitles, to help us start to think about what is this author's big idea, his big picture idea, and what he's mostly trying to tell us, or what she's mostly trying to tell us. So today I'm going to give you a little bit of additional strategies to help you clarify whether or not you're on the right track for main idea. So let's go ahead and look at some things that we can do. So the first thing you really want to ask yourself when you're looking at a page to identify the main idea, so if I was looking at this page right here, is what am I learning? What seems important here? Then you're going to read a little bit. Remember what I talked about chunking. Your brain can only handle so much information. So read a little bit, pause, ask yourself, what patterns do I notice? How do those patterns go together? Then read a little bit more, ask yourself, what is the author saying here? What patterns do I notice? How do these patterns go together? And then the final step is to think about, what is this mostly about? So let's practice that right here with Tomb of Treasures. So going back what we did yesterday, I'm going to look just right now at the subtitles and the photographs. So here's my subtitle right here. Remember, subtitle is the title within the title. Tomb of Treasures. What could that mean? Well, I know a tomb is a place where they bury people. Oh, the word wrap here helps me with that. A tomb is a grave room or building for holding a dead body. So it's where they bury their dead. A tomb of treasures. So I'm assuming that these tombs must have a lot of treasures. When I look at these photographs, these look like they're gold statues of ancient Egyptians. And then we look at this again, we knew this is where they bury mummies. This is that sarcophagus. And it looks like there's some gold and some jewels on there. So I'm thinking that the author is probably telling us in this section that these tombs have a lot of wealthy treasures that people want to go and get, because they're tombs of treasures. So I'm assuming that the main idea is mostly about how these Egyptians have lots of treasure in their tombs with their mummies. So the first thing we're going to do when we identify these details here to support our thinking is to zoom into the text and look for the details that match our main idea. So the main idea that I said here is that these tombs have lots of wealthy treasures. I'm thinking it's Egyptians buried their mummies with priceless treasures. That's what I'm thinking my main idea is. Now let's confirm that. We're going to zoom in when we read. So read a little bit, chunk. Read a little bit, think about it, chunk. Read a little bit, think about it, chunk. And once we do that, if we're right, we will be able to point to specific lines that say the important words that support this main idea right here. If not, if we can't do that, if we can't find these keywords or phrases that support our thinking, we need to rethink our main idea because we're not on the right track. So let's try that. Let's zoom in on those lines. First step right here. Zoom in on the text for details that match our main idea. Point to those specific lines and important words. So Tomb of Treasures. Ancient Egyptians made up millions of mummies. In 1922, a scientist named Howard Carter found a special mummy in Egypt. Carter peeked into the dark tomb and was struck with amazement. Gold sparkled everywhere. So when I think about that, the information they told me, a man named Howard Carter, 1922, found a mummy, a tomb of a mummy. When he opened it up, there was gold everywhere. Already starting to think about that supports this idea I have that Egyptians buried mummies with priceless treasures. So let's continue on. Carter had found the tomb of Tutankhamun. King Tut, or known as King Tut, he died over 3,300 years ago. He was only 18 years old. But the young king was buried with priceless treasures. Tut's tomb made him the most famous mummy in the world. So what I learned on this page was that Carter found King Tut, or Tutankhamun. Tutankhamun died over 3,000 years ago. He was 18 years old, and he was buried with priceless treasures, and they said he was the most famous mummy in the world because of that. So looking at both segments that I chunked in my mind, and I'm thinking, did any of this go with my main idea? Egyptians buried mummies with priceless treasures, after we thought about the text and looked at the photographs and the subtitles. So let's look at some specific lines that may say some of those important words. Well, when I look here on this first paragraph, if we're thinking about priceless treasures, when he opened the tomb, gold sparkled everywhere. Gold sparkled everywhere. That really supports, for me, that main idea, does it not? If you weren't buried with priceless treasures, gold would not sparkle everywhere. Rocks would sparkle everywhere. Or not sparkle at all, right? So let's look in here again. I remember reading about the types of treasures that made him famous. No, I didn't read about that in there. Did I read about why he was famous? I did read something about why he was famous. I'm going to reread and just check. He was only 18 years old, but the young king was buried with priceless treasures. Tut's tomb made him the most famous mummy in the world. So I think he was famous because of the priceless treasures he was buried with. So when we said that Egyptians are buried with priceless treasures, and Tut was an example of that. So I would say even though he was only 18 years old, King Tut was buried with those priceless treasures. And King Tut's tomb also made him the most famous mummy in the world. So it looks like on that paragraph I was able to zoom in on two details that supported my main idea. So I'm going to move this over here just so you can see them. We'll have it in a nice little line. So here's my main idea right here. And here are my supporting details. So step 2 is done. We've pointed to specific lines that say important words or phrases. So let's look at step 3. We're going to choose keywords or phrases that support your thinking, or we're going to rethink our main idea. So we've zoomed in on a lot of different ones. Do all of these, any of these, or none of these support my main idea? So let's have a talk about that. My main idea, again, for the 9th time, is that Egyptians are buried with priceless treasures. So King Tut's tomb made him the most famous mummy in the world. Does that really have anything to do with priceless treasures? I'm not really sure. I don't think so. It doesn't really even mention the words treasures. We just saying more about King Tut. So I'm going to say that one doesn't really support it. It kind of supports it, but not strong enough. He was only 18 years old, but the young King Tut was buried with priceless treasures. I mean, the word priceless treasures is in that phrase, correct? So that would definitely support my main idea. And then gold sparkled everywhere. Gold is a priceless treasure, so that would support my main idea. So I would think now that we have 2 really solid keywords or phrases for main idea. I would say that then my main idea is correct. Egyptians were buried with mummies or priceless treasures. So that's just a good way, readers, to support your main idea. But what if you're having a difficult time determining the main idea? So yesterday, as a quick review, we said finding main ideas by studying intros and text features. And we did that. We studied the beginning, and we study those different text features, and we say, what are the most important ideas here? So one other thing that you could do, and I go back to our chinchorros, is to look for a topic sentence. So the topic sentence is generally the very first sentence in a paragraph, in the very first paragraph, and it gives you an idea of kind of what the author wants you to learn. Just like we write topic sentences, the authors use topic sentences for the same purposes. However, I will tell you this, not all pieces have topic sentences. So let's take a look. The first people to make mummies may have been the Chinchorros. Their mummies are 7,000 years old. They are the oldest man-made mummies ever found. The Chinchorros mummified everyone who died, from babies to the oldest adults. They covered their mummies' faces with clay masks. Then the mummies were painted to make them shiny and black. The culture disappeared around 3,000 years ago. These strange mummies were all that was left behind. So when I look at this, I see two pictures of Chinchorro mummies. They talk about Chinchorro mummies in each paragraph. They talk about how old they are in this paragraph. They're 7,000 years old. They talk about who were made as mummies. And in here they talk about how they are still around, the mummies. So the first sentence in here might be the topic sentence. It says the first people to make mummies may have been the Chinchorros. And in each paragraph, they talk about the Chinchorro mummies and how long ago they existed. So I would definitely say that's the topic sentence. That would be a good main idea sentence. You could say the main idea is that the very first people to make mummies were the Chinchorros. And then your details would be, if we're zooming in on them, they're 7,000 years old. They're the oldest man-made mummies found. They mummified everyone, and their culture disappeared around 3,000 years ago, and these strange mummies were all that left behind. So that would be me zooming in on the details and supporting my main idea. So your task next will be this. I would like you to, on the next page, read Animal Raps, and then on the Padlet, come up with the main idea and one supporting detail. Come up with the main idea and one supporting detail. All right, readers, off you go.